Now, there's a lot of different repayment plans for student loans. There are 10-year plans, 15, 20, 30-year plans. There's graduated plans, there's pay-as-you-earn plans, there's income-based plans. There's so many different ways to pay back your college loan. And in your project, I'm going to have you look at some of those different payment amounts. And currently, there's even a student loan repayment program where if you're working in the public sector, that you can actually earn forgiveness sooner than you would in other situations. And so that would be things like nurses at a public hospital, or school teachers, people in law enforcement, public defenders, jobs like that are in that public sector. But the process for calculating your payment, if you're doing it by hand, would be using this formula. However, we're going to use Excel in order to calculate the present value and the payments for these loan programs. So if we looked at Kaylee, who received a 9-year subsidized loan of $32,000 at an annual interest rate of 4.5%, and if we assume that she graduates in 3 years, what will her monthly payment on the loan be? To do our calculation in Excel, we need to treat Excel like a calculator. And in order for Excel to know that we need to do the calculations, we hit the equal sign to queue up a formula. And the formula we want to use here is the payment formula because we're looking for the payment. So the payment formula is PMT, and often you'll actually see that function will show up when you start typing. If you had not put in the equal sign, it would not draw the formula. Then you hit a parentheses, and that's going to start the payment formula. You will get a hint below telling you what you should type in, and if you forget, you can always just click on either the function name or the section that you're in to help you learn how to type that in. So on the rate, we do turn it into a decimal, 0.045, but an important thing to note here is 4.5 was the annual interest rate. And these are calculating monthly payments. So you do need to divide that rate by 12. And so I just hit that slash there to divide by 12. Then hit a comma, and that's going to turn you into the number of periods. So these are monthly, so you would do 12, and then you would multiply, so hit Shift 8 to get that little asterisk for multiply, times the number of years. She was paying this off in 9 years. Then hit another comma, and it's going to ask you for the PV, the present value. So here she owes $32,000, so you will do -321 and then 3 zeros. Don't use any commas here because the commas mean something different in Excel. So just -32000, comma, and then we want to pay this off, so we want the present value to be 0. Close the parentheses and hit enter, and we see that our payment is $360.88, and that's our answer. In that example, she had a subsidized loan, and so there was no interest being accrued during the time that she was in school. However, let's say that she had done a non-subsidized or an unsubsidized loan. So that means for those 3 years that she's in school, it's going to be interest. So let's see how much these payments would be for the unsubsidized loan. So when we go into Excel, we first need to calculate what the new payment or what the new principal amount is going to be. So for the years that she's in school, it's going to be a simple interest calculation. So here, let's do equals, and it's going to be the amount that she borrowed, $32,000, times the number of years, 3, times the rate, 0.045. So here, it's just a simple interest, 3 years at 4.5%. So we need to add an additional $4,320 to that principal. So we can do that calculation here in Excel, hit equals, and then add that 4320. Every time you want Excel to do a calculation, remember, hit equals first, and it will turn Excel into a calculator. Now let's calculate the payment. So if we hit equal PMT, that's going to draw up the payment formula. We do our rate, and now we're switching to a monthly rate, so 0.045 divided by 12. And then the number of periods, it's a 9-year loan, so 9 times 12 to get the monthly number of periods, comma, then we need the present value. So this new loan balance is $36,320. We do need to, we need to make that negative. And you see here, I accidentally got out of it, and that's okay. If you make a mistake, you don't have to retype the whole thing. Just come up here to the formula bar and make your corrections. So I put in the negative there, hit comma, and I still need the 0 for future value. Now we can hit equals, and we see that the payment is $409.60. So that unsubsidized loan is going to end up costing her about an additional $90 a month versus the subsidized loan. Now, if you are looking at borrowing money for college, there are a few things for you to be looking at when it comes time to do your repayment. There are some income-adjusted repayment plans. And the way these work is they recognize that most people, when they get their very first job out of college, are probably not going to be making as much money as they would be later on in their careers. And so you can start on these income-adjusted repayment plans where you pay a particular percentage of your discretionary income each month, where you start with a low payment and build up over time as you presumably would be making more money in those later years. So there's a lot of different things that you can look at in terms of the different types of student loans. When I first started teaching, I was in a public school and I qualified for one of these income-adjusted repayment plans, and so I was able to pay according to my starting salary. Now, over time, I was no longer eligible for these loans because they typically for these loan repayments, because they typically benefit people who have a high amount of debt for a low annual income. And it's unlikely that you would be able to stay in that income-based repayment plan for the entire 10 years of your student loan. But depending on your situation, you might be able to stay in these income-adjusted repayment plans. They are there to help people out, particularly for people who are going into some of those fields like education or law enforcement, or jobs that the starting salaries can be quite low for a job that requires a college degree. These income-adjusted student loan repayments can be incredibly helpful, and I definitely took advantage of them for a few years. But one of the things that you have to recognize is that you still have to pay back the entire loan. You just don't have to make as large of a payment at the beginning as you would otherwise. So, for example, Sydney has this 9-year subsidized student loan of $32,000 with an annual interest rate of 4.5%. Her repayment plan, we already calculated that the payments here would be $320, but she is going to qualify for only having to pay $250 a month. So now the question becomes, how much longer is it going to take her to pay off this loan, since she won't be making the full amount of the payments that she would need to make to pay this off in 9 years. We're now going to use Excel to determine the number of periods that she's going to have to pay this loan. So let's hit equals, and then we're going to do NPER. That's for the number of periods. So parentheses is going to get us started. So we'll have 0.045 divided by 12 for our monthly payments. Now her payments here are $250. So we'll put $250 here for payment. The present value is negative $32,000, and then we want to pay this down to 0. So again, she owes $32,000, that's why that's negative, but she's paying $250, and so that's why that's going to be positive. So hit equal, and this should not have come out as a $sign. This was Excel thinking that I was in a currency, so let's just change this to general. And so we here see that it's 174.7 periods that this is going to take. Now, that's the number of months. Let's turn this into a comparison of the 9 years. So 9 years was 9 times 12, or 108. And again, I apologize, Excel keeps turning this into currency. We just want these as numbers. So what's the difference here? So if you hit equals, and then if I click that box with my number of periods, and I subtract the next box where I have my months, we'll see that this is an extra 66.7 months, or about 67 months. Well, how many years is this? Well, if you hit equal and do 67 divided by 12, you'll see that this is about an additional 5 years and 7 months that she'll be paying additional for using this income adjusted payment plan. So while these payment plans are incredibly helpful for you as you're just getting started after college, they do come at a cost. You are going to have to pay your loan longer and you'll end up paying more over time.